Fell. A name found in so many places, and yet I have no idea who this person is. Who is he, and why did they name a park after him? Hello, my name is Damon Breitbarth, and I basically live here. This place is Fell Hall at Illinois State University, or my second home. I know a very small amount of the history of this campus, yet I've spent countless hours here. I see the name Fell when I get here every single day, and I decided it was about time that I knew the person behind the name. First, I was curious to see if the other students who frequent Fell Hall are just as clueless as I am.
I know that he's from ISU, somehow.
Not exactly. I know that they have something to do with this building, Fell Hall.
The name on this building.
Didn't he make Fell Hall? He founded it?
I don't really know what he's done, probably donated some money or something.
His name is known by many, but his life is known by so few.
He founded, I say this all the time, he founded half of this state, practically.
He was the founder of the town of Normal, and a good many was involved in the foundation of several other towns in central Illinois.
Fell founded a little thing called Illinois State University, back when he called it Illinois State Normal University.
There was another Illinois State University at the time, but they were a private institution, lasted maybe 50 years. We were the first publicly funded state institution of higher learning in the state of Illinois. So we were founded by Jesse Fell. Jesse Fell fought very hard to get the money, found backers to put money forward to guarantee that if the state was going to put the university here, they'd be able to pay for it.
Finding ways to pay for schooling was no new challenge for Jesse. Growing up in a Quaker household in Pennsylvania, he went to a subscription school for an elementary education as there was no public schooling at the time. Instead of then going into the trades like his brothers, he pursued education in botany and law while doing odd jobs to pay for the whole thing. Fell continued to carve out his own path and decided to move to Illinois, which was just beginning to be built. And for a man with as much ambition as Fell, this town held a world of new opportunities. A small town called Bloomington had just begun to form and needed a lawyer. Little did they know a spunky young man from the east was about to change their little town for good. Fell was a talker and seemed to be able to get anyone to help him out with his many projects. He persuaded the right people to put the railroad close to Bloomington and convinced backers to support the funding for a school that had not yet been built, helping the city to grow and flourish to what it is today. But he didn't do everything by himself. He got a bit of help from his friend, Abraham Lincoln.
They meet in Vandalia, and they randomly got paired up to be roommates when they met in Vandalia. So I kind of liken that to when you come to Illinois State and you're a freshman, you get randomly paired up with someone, and you don't know, that person could be your best friend for life. They could be your spouse. They could be anyone. And so they were paired up, and they got to talking. They found out they had a lot in common, and this friendship just developed over time in that initial meeting. So when Lincoln asked his friend to be the paymaster general for the Union Army, Fell did it because his friend asked him to do it. Lincoln wasn't necessarily going to run for president or debate Stephen Douglas or do any of that without Jesse Fell Felling, nudging Lincoln to say, hey, I think you really could debate Stephen Douglas. I think you really could be president of the United States. And if it wasn't for that just random pairing in Vandalia, again, I say, we wouldn't have a 16th president of Abraham Lincoln.
After the war, Jesse turned his sights back to his old love of botany and planting trees. Fell played a large part in designing the quad as it stands today.
On that plot are these little dots all over in very specific places so that students who came to the university in its early days could walk that quad just outside of Old Main and walk in nature, kind of like around here, these beautiful old trees that they not only could walk in nature and stop and take a moment to go, oh wow, I'm at this university getting a higher education. They could study the trees, they could learn about farming, they could learn about biology, they could use these trees as a laboratory, not just a place of thinking and resting and enjoying nature, that they could actually use it in the classroom. But that was definitely a Jesse Fell. That was totally from his brain. He was the one that imagined that in the late 1800s and said we had to have that for the quad.
Jesse Fell was a major figure in Illinois' history and was a founder of multiple towns. Towanda, Dwight, and Pontiac are all towns founded by Fell. I decided to take a trip to Pontiac to see how he is remembered. I looked all around downtown, and all I could find was a single mural. I also found out there was a park named after him, so I took some time to enjoy the amenities. Pontiac seems to remember Jesse Fell just as little as Bloomington Normal does. His final resting place is no different. I visited the Evergreen Cemetery where Jesse Fell was buried. Surrounded by huge memorials for many important people in Bloomington's history is a humble tombstone for Fell among his family. It didn't seem right considering he had dedicated so much of his life to the town and the success of the people in it.
And there's the famous story that was told, he was a leading citizen, after all, of Bloomington Normal, and an old African-American woman gets on the streetcar, and Fell gets up and gives her his seat. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing. I mean, he's an old man, basically, at this point, and he's doing this, an incredible gesture.
Definitely, if it doesn't matter what color your skin is, that you had that right to an education, and believed very strongly in that idea that if everyone gets an education and becomes better people, we thus become a better community and better stewards of the land that we live in.
One could say, if you think that Fell's real hope was that this was to be a multi-purpose institution, a real university, it took 150 years to achieve that goal. But in many ways we have. It just took much longer than I think he would have anticipated. And I think he would be pleased by what this place became, because that's what he wanted.
He clearly did a lot for Illinois itself and Abraham Lincoln and why we have the quad and everything.
He's been a huge contribution to the university, and people should know.
Yeah, I mean, considering that I didn't really know anything and I go here.
You know, of course, without his works, we wouldn't be at the university that we're attending now and be, roaming through the communities that we are roaming through now. So I think it would be important. I think it's always important to know the history of where you are, where you live, and just who played a critical role in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think just people knowing about the history of the institution and the people that founded the university.
Absolutely. Considering that Abraham Lincoln was such a historically prevalent person in general, I think that in terms of state history and what we can educate people on historically within our education system within the state, I think he did a lot for us, so I feel like people should know.
As ISU students, we should know more about founders of the school, people that helped with different things, and just since the quad is such a crucial part and it's the building is named after it, I think that we should know more about the history of ISU in general.
So, what have I learned? Despite all his contributions to this community, this state, and even this nation, Fell has just become a street, a building, a mural on a brick wall, a park, and a forgotten founder.